Thank you for joining us on today's edition of Platform, and we shall be discussing a spiritual matter. And what we're looking at today is about where God calls you to serve. Some in the urban areas, some in rural areas, and some have had experiences of both worlds. And my guest today is also an author. He has some books to his name, and we will be discussing taking the message to the grassroots. My name is Yakubu Chadi. My guest here is not a new person. He has been here on this program. For the benefit of those who we uh, introduce yourself.
I'm Reverend Gideon Bondurang, a clergy with the Church of Christ in Nations, currently serving as the leading pastor of Kokin LCC Ajikamai in Yelwa in Shar, RCC,
Oh,
Shandam Local Government,
okay.
Plateau State.
Well, should I say welcome back?
Thank you, sir.
Well, the other conversation was you were in the urban center, Nigeria's commercial city, capital commercial city, Lagos, and now you're back at home in far away, not also in the capital city. And looking at this transition and transformation, I know also that Jesus did most of his work in the countrysides and so on and so forth. Is there any marked differences between ministering in the urban centers and in the rural areas?
Well, the, there is no big difference as such. The message is one message. The message that we present to people in the urban areas is the same message that we present to people in the rural areas. I think the only difference might be the application of the message. The way you apply it in the urban areas may not necessarily be the same way you apply it in rural areas. Another difference may be the context. Of course, the urban context is not the same as the rural context, but you are dealing with people who share the same spiritual condition. They need the gospel. Uh, and the message of the gospel is available to them. So that's the little difference I see. Of course, in the urban areas, you are dealing with huge population of people. The rural areas may be small villages with few people. So those are basically the differences.
Yes, there's more diversity in urban areas because people come from all walks of life to congregate in a place. But here, in most rural communities, you find that most of the members of the church are of the same ethnic group.
Right.
And if you have few people, it's just a sprinkle. Numbers you can count on your fingertips that these ones are not from this ethnic group. Does that have any influence on the work?
It does, because they are few, you can minister to them more efficiently and more effectively. You'll be able to develop relationships with the people, and through relationship be able to pass the message of the gospel across. Um, Another implication is that they may be of the same ethnic extraction, so they have their own values, they have their own customs and norms. So you have to be able to enculturate or acculturate. That is, you should be able to be one of them, learn those values, learn those cultural practices that are unique to these people, to be able to effectively address the gospel to them. So that those are the missiological implications of you going to a community that is of the same ethnic extraction. They will have formed their own worldviews. They will have been having their own cultural practices. So you need to identify with them. You need to learn because you may be coming from another ethnic group different from the one you are ministering in. So you will need to come to their own level, learn their own culture, learn their own language, learn their norms and values, and be able to use this to channel the gospel.
It's quite interesting. I do know that after 8 years sojourn outside and in a place where there's so much hustle and bustle, and now you're back to a farming community, so to say. And you've had experience also around Zamko area, I'm sure, and all of those things. And in looking at trying to get the gospel with the dynamics of the current changes, is there any influence of modernity going into communities that you find some strange behaviors?
Yeah, Ajikamai, like you rightly said, is an agro community. The land there is quite fertile, and agricultural activities are going on there. The farming of maize, the farming of rice, and many other agro products. Um, well, as I reflect on this and also reflect on the Bible, especially uh, Palestine, most of the places that Jesus ministered were rural communities. They were communities that were known for farming and fishing, especially
Yeah.
places like Galilee. He actually stayed in a place called Capernaum. That was more or less like
Most
his
times going to the board and addressing
exactly,
people or fishermen, giving them
exactly,
instructions on what to do.
exactly. Now, relating your question to where I am coming from, uh, there is need for modernization, even in the agricultural efforts of the people there. So what I see there is that to maximize what they are doing in the area of agriculture, there is need for modern methods of farming. They need tractors, they need machines that will help them in harvesting their rice, combine harvesters, for example, and many other agricultural machines that will help in boosting their agricultural activities. When they have this, that will really promote what they are doing, and it will also increase the value chain of what they are doing.
If you look at the ministry of the early missionaries, it was holistic:
Right.
education, school, and health, and also by the side skills acquisition. Because I'm a beneficiary of missionary school where we had vocational subjects that students would have to learn to be able to do one or two things now. Having identified these issues and with the limitations before government, uh, in what area can the church intervene in making provisions for those things? I know cooking used to have farm and faith. I don't know whether it's existing up till now. It's also part of that ministry. Would the church or look at the possibility of also carrying along that kind of ministry that was brought to us?
Yeah, the gospel is a holistic gospel. It has to address the spiritual as well as the physical needs of people. And the role the church can play in doing that cannot be overemphasized. In our place, we are a church, but we also run a school because we discovered that the public schools are not many. They can't absorb all the kids that need to go to school. So the church intervened in that area So we have the cooking nursery and Maranatha Nursery and Primary School, Ajikamai, which is run by our church. And we are also looking at the possibilities of having a clinic uh, that will be run by the church. So these are areas that the church can intervene. And I think we have been making efforts to reach out to these needs as they present themselves.
What is the population of the community?
You mean the entire community
Yes,
or
yes, the entire community.
I may not be able to say exactly, but the Ajikama is fairly populated community, but I can't say the exact figure now.
And I asked that in relation of the fact that Jesus talked about the laborers are few, but the harvest is much.
Okay, I understand.
Yes.
The yes, there are other communities in the remote areas of Ajikamai that need to hear the gospel. And I think what Jesus said still applies today. We need laborers to go into those communities because there are people, many people in those remote areas that are beckoning for missionaries to come and preach the gospel. But we have, even our church, we have some places that we don't have trained workers in those places. So that is a challenge. There are communities, many. A lot of times we don't normally um, understand the fact that there are many rural communities close to us or even distant from us that are still in need of the gospel. We have the feeling that we have already saturated the communities around us with the gospel, and there are no other communities that need the gospel. But there are.
It brings to mind can you expatiate on mission field and to also look at the fact that yes, for mission field, some trained personnel are sent to also. Are you would you be taking advantage of the opportunity of mission fields to also reach those areas?
Mission feels like,
That the church could have a mission field somewhere to send somebody to also begin to
yeah,
work there
yeah,
and establish to strengthen them in faith and
like in Cooking, we have the Cooking Community Missions, uh, which is an arm of the church that takes care of the recruitment and sending of
discipleship.
pastors to or missionaries to rural areas. When there are needs like this, we we what we do is we channel those needs to that office who will assess the needs and see the need to deploy missionaries to those areas. So that is what we do. But like in the case of Ajikamai, we have I can't remember her name, but she is there's a woman who has a big passion for missions, rural missions, who is partnering with the church to reach out to some of these communities. In fact, she has built churches, church buildings
Yes.
for people in those areas to have a place of worship. The only challenge she has is that she's not able to provide pastors. I think that is the area the church can come
Okay.
to partner with her by sending trained pastors to go and man those churches.
What is the level of growth of the church in that community?
The church is growing, though not without challenges. The church is growing with the right message, uh, discipleship going on. The church is growing.
You look at Ajikamai, and with the sighting of the Federal Polytechnic there, and look, you're also going to have an influx of people from different walks of life and different characters and behaviors. Most institutions of higher learning are also identified with cultism and vices. Um, how are you preparing your minds, the minds of your congregants, to also take note of these impending vices? These are impending vices, whether we like them or not. They may have an impact on communities.
Yes, we are already thinking towards that. In fact, I have mentioned it several times to our congregation that immediately the school takes off, when they immediately they admit students, we should be prepared to make some adjustments, even in our church, because we are going to have many of these young men and women coming from different parts of the country to school here. And so, as a church, we are already making a plan for them. Right now, we are running our services in Hausa, mostly in Hausa. But I've told them that by the time we have these students coming in, we should know that we are going to start running two services. One will be predominantly English, and then maybe a second service will be Hausa for those who don't understand Hausa. So I am used to that. I have the experience of both the urban and the rural. I have been in the school also as a teacher. I understand the challenges of young men, and we will address the gospel to those challenges and ensure that we help the young men that come to church.
In being there, you're getting close to a year or thereabout there.
Yes.
What's your level of interaction and integration in that community?
Well, I am more or less like one of the one of the members of that community. I've already integrated well. I I relate well with the traditional ruler, the traditional ruler of Ajikamai. I relate with other churches, even the school, the Federal Polytechnic in Ajikamai is. I relate also with them because the registrar of the institution is my member. So I am conversant with what is happening, and I am also looking at what role I will play in order to add value to that community. There is a Christian College of Health in that school, in that community, who contacted me to be their chaplain, which I wholeheartedly accepted, and have been doing my little best to contribute in molding the lives of the students of that school. Sometimes they have challenges, they run to me to say, "Come, sir, and help us. This is the challenge we have. What will you advise?"
So, coming from an urban setting and a huge population and going to a rural area, would you say you're busy? Would you say the level of activities now are more demanding than it were before?
No, not at all. Uh, Actually, there is a huge difference in terms of the level of work I used to do in Lagos and the one I am currently doing. In fact, when I came to Ajikamai in January, I didn't have much to do. I didn't have much to think about. I didn't have so many challenges to address. So it was, I actually rested. You can even see in my appearance that some people have met me recently and they said, "Why are you looking better than when you were in Lagos?" I think the reason is because I have had some good time to rest. But that is not to say that I am not also busy. I read, I prepare for my messages, I prepare for my teachings, and I'm doing my best.
So, are there other things to engage the youth and the people? Because it said an idle mind is a devil workshop, and the other activities, something similar to what obtains there in the urban center. Perhaps you may not find exactly here, and people need to be engaged. Extracurricular activities, sometimes like sports, drama, church drama, and the rest of things
Yeah, uh, I play soccer. I go to the field to play soccer with the young men.
of the community.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the counselor of the ward there, we play the same on the same pitch with him. When I arrived the community, that was one of the first things that I did. And that brought me close, much more closer to the young men. And those are platforms that we could also use to also present the gospel to the young
So,
men.
what position do you play?
Actually, when I was in the seminary, I played defense.
Okay.
My height, by my height, ordinarily I shouldn't have played defense, but I played defense in Jets, and I
Okay.
played well in the defense. After my graduation, when I was doing NYAC, I played seven,
Okay. A winger.
position seven. And when I came back, now that I'm old, I will not play seven because you have to be springing. You have to be somebody that can spring well. So I'm playing more or less of a central
Midfielder.
midfield.
You know, footballers have nicknames. What? So, what is your football name?
Well, I don't have a football name, but I remember one of our lecturers in Jets, Reverend Dr. Dwight Singer, who used to teach us Old Testament. He gave us, myself and one other guy that were playing the defense, he gave us the nickname of Power Packs. And the reason why he called us Power Packs is because of the kind of energy we demonstrated on the field of play. He said he will come and watch us. We will play 90 minutes without getting tired. So he now said, I've given you names, Power Packs.
Do you still, is that power still there for the gospel? The
The
energy for soccer and the
Yes.
energy for the service of God.
Oh, is there. The energy for soccer cannot take away the energy for the gospel. Actually, my involvement in the soccer is to actually help me
Physically strong.
exactly remain physically strong and be able to present the gospel, go where I want to go, remain physically fit to do my work, visit families I need to visit, take the gospel to areas I need to take the gospel. So that's the essence of uh, my physical exercise. Apart from soccer, every morning I go out to do some jogging just to keep physically fit.
So finally, before we wrap up, let me ask you: if one were to go for a posting in a rural area in the Lord's vineyard, what should be uppermost in the mind of somebody, and what should be the goal?
Yeah, what should be uppermost in the mind of anybody going to the rural area? He is going there primarily for the sake of the gospel. And nothing at all should take that place of the centrality of the gospel in a community. So whatever you do in rural areas, farming activities are going on, other activities are going on. If you are not careful, you will your attention may be shifted from what is primary to what is secondary. So those who go to rural areas must remain focused on preaching the gospel and preaching it in a way that the people in the rural areas understand it, because they are a different set of people. Their level of understanding is not the same as maybe for not the same as those who are in the urban areas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We will need to end this conversation, but sometimes perhaps we take time to come to Ajikamai to see how you are faring. I've been there twice.
You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you. And viewers, that's the much we can take on this conversation with Reverend Gideon Bondurang, leading pastor, LCC Ajikamai. Next week, we'll be here with another interesting guest. Thank you for watching.